Playing in the major is a very big achievement for not only myself, but also this team. When I first made this roster, when I first joined, Rogue was their main thing they wanted was us to actually attend a major, get their stickers in the game, and I think that us being able to do that proves that not only are we capable of being a team that's in the top whatever, the top tier, but also we have proven that we've been able to grow and improve as a team, as a whole. My favorite moment so far has been making it to the finals of DreamHack Austin. It's been a very long time for me individually, making it to the finals of a tournament, pretty much overall. So being able to do that after having recruited Ricky so soon before that tournament, it meant a lot, and it showed that our roster has a lot of potential and we have what it takes to make some finals. I think the roster currently that we have is the best roster we've ever had. When I first joined this team and we first made this team under Rogue, the goal had always been to be a top tier team, be able to attend tournaments, be able to make majors. And unfortunately, at the beginning, we weren't quite there yet. But I think with all the additions and all the changes we've made, we obviously have what it takes to at least attend a major, and hopefully when given some time to build up some chemistry and build up some pizzazz, I'll use the word, I think we'll be a very good team. I think the North American scene is the best right now than it ever has been. I've been in the scene for a long time, and the amount of top tier teams we have that are pretty consistently beating the best teams in the world is way more than it ever has been. We have players that are coming pretty much out of nowhere, filling into these teams that they look like they belong there almost immediately. So I would think that the meme that is NACS probably will never leave, but we're definitely a force to be reckoned with, and we have some very, very good teams. I think the idea of recruiting outside talent, we'll call them, from countries that are not where everyone's based is probably going to be a thing forever at this point. Back when I was first starting in CS, it was pretty much unheard of having a European move to America for Counter-Strike, or even vice versa. So I think now that it's been happening, you see a lot of teams with multiple nationalities on it. You see a lot of the American teams picking up Brazilian players, Australians, even just Europeans in general. So I don't see any reason why the scene would shift from that. I think it just makes sense, if there's a good player, as long as he speaks your language, you might as well try to get him. CSGO is definitely not perfect. It definitely has its flaws. I would say it's probably the best right now than it has been in the past, but something I would like to change is just the power of pistols. It seems like in CSGO, eco rounds or force buys, when one team has CZ, Kevlar, or even just like CZ nades, it just seems very, very hard to stop things like that. And in previous versions of Counter-Strike, it used to be if a team was going to buy upgraded pistols, they would only buy a deagle, and they kind of had to get lucky with the deagle to make it work, and it didn't. I would say right now with CZs, the win rate is probably around 50% of eco rounds. Maybe that's a little too much, but we'll just round up and say it's 50. Probably in older versions of Counter-Strike is something like 25, maybe even 10%. So just that, the fact that the stat is so skewed in CSGO, I personally don't like it, but it also adds kind of a depth to the game because you have to be careful for that. You have to always be aware that, just because you broke some other team's money, they're going to force buy, they're going to have CZ armor, so you have to kind of play accordingly. So obviously the Major has all of the best teams in the world. I personally would really like to play against teams like Virtus.pro, NIP, and probably Liquid. Virtus.pro, just because I've played against them for forever, and even though they're not in their best form, it's always fun to play against them. Kind of same thing with NIP, just players I've been playing against for 5, 6, 7 years now, and it just kind of brings back like nostalgic memories of times in the past and of previous matchups. And then obviously Liquid is my old team, and they're probably one of, if not the best teams in the actual challenger stage. So if we end up playing them and we happen to beat them, I think it will send a message to every other team we could possibly play, like, hey, Rogue is not a joke, and you have to be kind of careful when they play us. We're almost there. I think we still don't have that much depth in our map pool. We don't have that much chemistry with our roster. We had a 1 month long player break 2 weeks ago for a month before that. So, even though Rick has been on the team for almost close to 3 months now, we've only really been playing with him for 2. And we're just off of a long break. So I personally think that we have the potential to beat, pretty much any team in the world. And I think that's why Counter-Strike right now is so exciting, because sure, you get the Astralis, the Navi, the teams that are people consider clear-cut the best, but the skill gap isn't to the point where you can guarantee a team is going to 16-0, or you can't guarantee any team is going to beat any team. Counter-Strike is very volatile at the moment, and I think that makes it exciting for the spectator. I personally was very excited to see not only the Rogue sticker, but also my signature sticker in the game. It's been nearly 2 years since I had a signature in the game, and I know this is the first for, I think, all 4 of my other teammates. So it's always good to, regardless of what happens in the future, you kind of have your legacy in the game. No matter what happens, at the end of the day, for as long as CSGO remains alive and there's not another version of the game that comes out or something like that, you can buy a 6 sticker, you can buy a Cadian sticker 10 years from now if CSGO is still alive. So I think that's really cool, and it's kind of a milestone in your career when you can say something like that. We were boot camping in Denmark for the last week. Like I said before, 2 weeks before that, we were on a 1 month long player break. So you could definitely see at the beginning of our boot camp that we were kind of rusty. People needed some time to get back in the groove of things. People just needed to play, hours in Counter-Strike before we got back to our groove. And I think the boot camp in Denmark that we went to was really helpful for that. I don't think it would be fair to say after that long boot camp that there's going to be any rust anymore. I think we're all in good form, and we put in a lot of hours in the boot camp. So I think, and I hope that shows when we play this week. I think there's a lot of aspects that goes into making what you would call a perfect team. There's not really a simple equation you can just put to every team and all of a sudden you're just the best team. It takes a lot of hours and a lot of grinding of just everyone getting comfortable with each other. There's some personality things that you have to understand how to talk to different people. You have to understand how to give criticism to certain people. Some people can take criticism, some people can't. As far as tactics goes, I think we're in this stage in CSGO where tactics aren't that much of a necessity. Earlier in CSGO, when people weren't actively trying to break down strategies as they were happening, it was more important. But right now, there's a lot of individual plays that happens, so which kind of leads into the next part of actually just being good individually, knowing what plays to make and when to make them. And that all kind of goes hand in hand with being on the same page as teammates. You can put the best player in the world on a team that is fairly new, and that player could just because he's good, it doesn't mean anything. If they're not working together as a team, if they're not able to make plays off of each other, you could pretty much never tell if that guy is good. Obviously there's some outliers in that scenario, but for the most part, like it's kind of everything goes hand in hand. There's not one thing that you can say, oh yeah, having great aim makes you a great player. It makes you good at shooting people, but it doesn't make you good at working with your team and developing, the timings and the relationships with your teammates that comes with being a good player.